there BookTube, it's Eleanor here. I'm going to start filming talking about the books that I've read as I finished reading them, because I think that is going to help me to make my reviews better, because I'm not great at writing things down all the time, and I think if I can get my thoughts coherent enough straight away and sort of and tell you my thoughts, then that's going to work best. So we'll see how this goes. So this video will be some clips of books that I've been reading, but the book that I finished that I wanted to talk about now is If It Makes You Happy by Claire Cam. And this was different for me. It was very different. It's a contemporary romance. It's about our main character Winnie, and she goes to her grandmother's restaurant in this small town every summer to help out. She loves working in a restaurant. She wants to go into restaurant management, maybe own her own restaurant one day, and she always visits her gran and helps out with her cousin Sam, who lives with them with her dad, and also her brother Winston. So there's Winnie, her cousin Sam, who's 2 years younger, and then Winston, who's 2 years younger than that. He's 14. And they go every summer to this small town, like I said, and this is sort of the last year before she goes off to college. And in this small town there's a girl called Cara, who she has a queer platonic relationship with. I have to admit that this is completely out of any sort of experience that I've ever had or experienced or been around. So it was something that after I'd finished reading, actually I needed to look up and sort of learn a little bit more about. But that didn't mean that I don't think that it was well explained in the book. It was just something that I wasn't personally aware of. And I think, you know, when you come across things like that, it's not to say, oh well, that can't be true, what's going on there. It was more, okay, I need to sort of educate myself a little bit more on this. So it was a really interesting dynamic, and I just thought that was it was such a good relationship. It was honest, it was supportive, and there was a true bond there between them. And Winnie and Cara are also sort of polyamorous. So being in this polyamorous relationship, Winnie leaves herself open to the idea that there may be someone else as well in addition to Cara in her life. And this is where Dallas comes in. He is a boy from the town, and he's interested in Winnie, and there's this competition in town every year where you put your names in a bowl, or you put your name in if you want to be this sort of queen, where you have to go and do sort of social engagements. And if they pull your name out, you are the queen for that sort of summer season, and then people can nominate themselves to come and be your king, and they have to fight it out or queen, as it is. You know, there's sometimes, it says in the book, there had been queens and queens and kings and all sorts of different relationships. But this is sort of mystical, fantastical fantasy that the people fall in love who end up being together through doing this. And so when her name gets pulled out, which she didn't put in the pot herself, Dallas, this boy, nominates himself, as does Cara. And so there's a bit of a battle, there's a competition, and it goes from there really. It then follows this relationship, but the whole book isn't about that. That is a big part of it, and that is something that we sort of learn about as we go through. But this is really about Winnie, and it's about Winnie being unapologetically herself. She is a strong black woman who doesn't want her voice to be quenched and not heard. She doesn't want to make herself small to make other people feel better, or to not rock the boat. And I just loved that about her character. She is a fat girl. She classes herself as fat. She just embraces that. That is who she is. It doesn't bother her. It bothers other people much more. And she's not going to let people belittle or make her feel bad for the person that she is. And I just loved her sort of how sure and centered she was with herself. I think that can be quite intimidating, because she really just knows herself. I want to read you a quote from the book, which I just thought was really impactful. Sometimes I didn't want to be nice. I didn't think I was a bad person, but that niceness felt like a burden I had to endure because of my blackness. Doubly so because I was a girl, triply because I was fat. How come I wasn't allowed to have that space where my attitude could be less than? I was a person, a human too. And I just thought that was a really strong statement. There's so many things that are sort of mentioned in this book and discussed which are so relevant to things that are going on right now. There's a part where Winnie is talking to Dallas, and here she's talking about he's talking about how he broke up with his last girlfriend, and he says, "Do you want to know why I broke up with Lacey? I was driving and we got pulled over. She had an open bottle of vodka in my car. I still don't know how she cried her way out of us getting into trouble, but she did. Sheriff Mills didn't charge us. He told my parents though. He didn't look sad or upset, just resigned in a it is what it is kind of way. My dad flipped the fuck out over it. He said being light-skinned and talented wouldn't save me. None of the shit I'd accomplished mattered to all to them or their guns." And I just think that really is quite telling of the way things are for black people. And I just really appreciated that Claire had put this in. I definitely recommend this. I thought it wasn't without its flaws. If we're going to talk about flaws, I felt there were some unresolved things that I would have quite liked to know. I would have quite liked to have known what was her granny's problem, and I don't want to say any more than that because I don't want to spoil it. I would have quite liked to know what her granny's problem was, and I'd like to know more about these characters. I'd like to know what happens with them in the future, but that part I think is the sign of a good story. But I definitely think there was a couple of unresolved things that I would have liked to have been resolved in there a bit more. And it was just a really nice sort of slice of time in Winnie's life just before college, and I really enjoyed reading it. So I would definitely recommend this one if you're looking for a contemporary with some really big topics in there. There's race, fat phobia, emotional abuse and medical mistreatment. Yeah, so I really enjoyed reading this, and it's definitely one that I would give to somebody else to read, and it's definitely got some excellent representation in there. So a 4-star from me on this one, and I'll come back to you when I've read another one. I started the Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez last night. I was listening to an audio. I just wanted to lie on my sofa and listen to an audiobook while following along with the book. I've not been feeling great again. We think it's this sort of constant healing from the coronavirus. My breathing went again about 4 days ago, and it's just very tiring. The doctors seem to still think that I've had coronavirus about 12 weeks ago and that this is all still part of the healing. Apparently it's quite common to have like this resurgence of symptoms. This is the 3rd time now. However, I'm going for some tests next week. I'm having ECGs and blood tests and oxygen level tests at a shielding clinic next week just to check. So don't worry, I'm sure I'll be fine. By the time you see this, I've probably already been. But I wanted something just to relax to. I was finally being able to breathe a bit better, and I was feeling quite tired and I just wanted to relax. I wasn't quite ready for bed. So I put this on. I knew it would be an easy listen. The first book in this series is called The Friend Zone, and I do recommend reading that one first. It gives you a really good background to the main character and her best friend, because the first book is about her best friend's story. So I won't spoil that part of it. I don't want to talk too much about this because I don't want to spoil the plot line for the other one. But this one is about Sloane, and Sloane's going through a tough time, and she is driving somewhere, and this dog ends up in her car, climbing through her sunroof, and no one seems to know whose dog it is. No one claims it, so she takes it home and tries to find the owner, and it turns out that the owner is in Australia, I think it is, or is away for a number of weeks when she finally gets hold of him. So they have this sort of text conversation about the dog. She agrees to look after it until he gets back, and they have this sort of witty, texty, flirty banter going on, and then they decide that they're going to obviously meet up to hand the dog over when they get back, and then there's this sort of romance that starts to happen. The main character, male main character, Jason, is a famous musician, and so that's why he's been away, and we just follow a romance that happens, and it has its ups and downs, and I just, the ride for this, you know what's going to happen really, but I just really enjoyed the ride with this. I really enjoy the characters. Yeah, I like the fact that the men in this don't give up, and they're not wishy-washy. They are certain and sure of the women that they want, which I think is a really nice trait, and is very so romantic and sexy in a way, and it's just written really nicely. I really love listening to it, and I gave this one 4 stars. It was close to a 5. There were some tears at certain parts in it, but not quite. It just wasn't quite there with the 5 for me. I'd say if I was pushed, it would be sort of a 4.5. But I definitely recommend the 2 books that I read by this author, which is The Friend Zone, which is the first one, and this is the Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. So I am planning, I'll tell you what is coming next. I'm currently still reading Solitary by Albert Woodfox for the BookTube prize. I'm a judge and judging the semi-final in that, and this is one of the 3 books that I still have left to read in my category of 6. So I'm working my way through this slowly. I'm at the sort of 50-page mark, but I'm really taking my time with this. I'm only reading a few chapters at a time because I want to sort of digest it all and take it all in, because with these sort of books there's quite a lot going on and there's quite a lot of emotions, and I think it's really interesting to sort of just take your time with it. So I'm reading this. I am also working on this. It is a book, but it's not really a reading book. It's called Journal 29, and it's an interactive book game. I treated Tracy to one of these as well, and we've been sort of chatting about it a bit and doing a bit by ourselves but a bit together. And the basic idea is there is a very tenuous plot going on, but it's every page is you've got to work out what the answer is to some sort of code. And then when you've worked it out, you scan the QR code and you put the you put what you think the answer is, and then they give you a key number, and then sometimes that's important to the next bit of the story. But it's like an interactive game of riddles and puzzles, and it's like a brain training thing, but it really keeps your brain going, and it's been really good fun. So I might do a few of those, and then I think I don't know what I'm gonna start next. That's part of the excitement. Let's have a look. I'm reading a now maybe, yeah, I might read this one next. It's called Eleanor and Gray by Brittany C. Cherry. I don't know much about this. This was something that was on Peace Love Books channel. I always get romance recommendations from her. This says, Grayson East left his mark on me as the young girl who first fell for him. I didn't know much about life. I did know about his smiles though, and his laughs, and the strange way my stomach flipped when he was near. Life was perfect until it wasn't, and we were forced to go our separate ways. I held on to our memories. I let go of my first crush and wished for the day I'd find him again. When my wish came true, it was nothing like I'd imagined. I couldn't have known when I took the nanny position that it would be his children that I was looking after, that my new boss would be the boy I used to know, the boy who was now a man, a cold, lonely, detached man. The smile and laugh I'd loved so much were gone, now distant memories. Every part of him was covered in a fresh pain. When he realised who I was, he made me promise to do my job and my job only. He made me promise not to try to get to know him, not to recall the memories I'd treasured all this time. But sometimes I saw the boy I'd once known in his stormy eyes. I saw the Grayson who smiled and laughed, who'd stolen a young girl's heart, and there was no doubt in my mind that this boy was worth fighting for. I was given a second chance with the one who'd left his mark on me. All I hoped was that somehow I'd leave a mark on his soul too. So, might be a good one. It's, yeah, I think this is the one that I'm fancying, so I think I'm going to try this next. So I'll carry on with Solitary, do a bit of my journal, and then I think I will I'll pick up Eleanor and Gray next. So hopefully I'll come back to you and let you know how I feel about one of those in the next one. I mean, Solitary so far is really interesting. We're following Albert's life. We haven't got to the point where he's been incarcerated for this long period of time, but he's certainly been in and out of prison in his young life, doing various things from armed robbery to burglary to various different things he's been picked up for over the years, and he's done time in some fairly horrible prisons, and he talks about the prison system. But what's interesting is we've just got to the stage where he's going through the prison at a time where this is sort of 3 strikes you're out thing came in. So yeah, I'm interested to see what happens next, really, and following on with his story. Anyway, I will come back to you when I've got more to say. Hi there. So you'll have to excuse the tears. I was trying to get this in before my daughter came back from her walk, but I don't think that's going to happen because I've just heard them come in the door. I have just finished Eleanor and Gray by Brittany C. Cherry. I've literally listened to this in a day on audio, and wow, this is a 5-star read for me. It was brilliant. It's written by a person of colour. Our characters aren't people of colour, from what I can gather, and from what I can gather on the front. But our author is a person of colour, a black author, which I'm trying to read more of. So I wanted to point that out. I do also want to point out, I've just made a note here, that there is triggers in here for grief, cancer, a parent and a partner death, emotional abuse and bullying. There's quite a lot of heavy topics in here, but it was such a beautiful story. We're following two people, 2 points of view, Eleanor and Grayson, and they meet when they're quite young at school. And Eleanor is a Harry Potter nerd. She spends high school parties in the corner reading Harry Potter, trying to stay out of everyone's way, while her cousin Shay is off, you know, kissing and doing things, and sort of keeps an eye out for her. And she meets Grayson at a party, and then they form a friendship, and things happen in their life, and they end up not seeing each other for quite a long time until they cross paths when she goes to apply to be a nanny to a family with 2 children, and it turns out that it's Grayson's family, and then you again see this reconnection. I don't want to say much more because I don't want to spoil the story, but I just thought it was beautifully written, and I appreciated how the author didn't try and make this epic love make everything go away. It didn't make everything better, and I thought that was really important, that they had to work through the different things. There was so many different things and different people that needed healing throughout the story for different reasons, and they didn't just gloss over that and say, oh well, we love each other so that makes everything okay. There was healing that went on, and there was a beautiful sort of bonding relationship between Eleanor and Grayson's children, and I just thought this was wonderfully handled, a beautiful book, and I cried for the last 100 or so pages. I just cried the whole time. So 5 stars. I'm so pleased. I haven't had a 5-star read for ages, so this is epic. So I'm definitely going to be now checking out a bit more of Brittany C. Cherry. I have read another book by her, The Air He Breathes, I think it was, which was okay. It wasn't necessarily a winner, but I get the feeling there may be more in this series, because there was sort of a hint of one of the other side characters maybe having their own book. I get the feeling that that might be what that thread was sort of pushing towards. So I'll definitely be rooting that one out, but I'm so pleased that I finally picked this one up, and it just goes to show, you see, you take a recommendation of someone off BookTube who knows what they're talking about, and yeah, you end up with a winner. So 5 stars. Okay, so I've just finished my next book. I'm not going to talk about it here though, because I have done a whole video vlog of me opening the packages that came with it, because it was the book that came in my next Once Upon a Book Club box, and that is The Edge of Everything by Nora Shalloway Carpenter. This is an Own Voices novel and explores themes of OCD, depression, loss of a child, and it was about 2 friends. It's told in dual perspective by Len and Sage, and it's 2 people who don't know each other and have very different experiences of school. It's a YA book, and it's about circumstances that throw them together, and I just thought it was a really good book. But if you want to know more, then check out my video talking about this and the vlog that I did when I was reading it, but it was a good 4 stars, so I'm pleased that I picked this one up. So I'm going to stop this reading vlog here because I've covered quite a few books, but I'll come back to you with some more thoughts on some more books soon. And make sure you let me know in the comments below what you've been reading. Can you recommend any authors to me based on the books that I've read that you think I might enjoy? Tell me if you've had any 5-star reads recently. There's fewer and far between. I think I'm becoming more and more picky about what becomes a 5-star read. So yes, I need some more, but at least I had one in this vlog, so that was really pleasing. Anyway, I will speak to you and see you in the next one. Bye for now, BookTube.